Sorry I'm late. How are you guys? Welcome. Gonna light some sage. Hello. Hi, Margarita. Good morning, darling. Michelle, hello. How are you? How you doing, Michelle? You been good? Hi, Israel. Hi, Jordan. Hi, Sophie. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Lynn. Grand rising, everyone. Hi, Allison. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Grant. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Bradley. Good morning, brother. You're very well. That's good to hear. Amy, nice to see you. Just finished doing some clearings with Katie, so I'm doing smudge now. Did you guys have a good weekend? Anything new going on? The sage is going all over the place today. I'm setting my lap on fire. Always be careful when you're lighting your sage. Hi, Joanne. How you doing? Hi, Donna. Hi, Cherise. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Emma. How is everyone today? Did you guys have a good weekend? Anything new and exciting going on? Anybody have some good news considering all the chaos we're having? I would love to hear some good news today. We need some positive news today. Hi, Holly. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Stephanie. Chemo starts today for Connor, heading to the hospital soon. Sending you lots of love. Sending Connor some love as well. Make sure to put you both in a big bubble of golden light before you go into the hospital. Just visualize it. See it in your mind's eye. I noticed you have 39,093. Yes, I have had some virals the last few days. I don't know. Things are shifting. Have you guys noticed that Zuckerberg was on there apologizing to everybody the other day? I don't know what's going on. It's like, I don't know. The funny thing is, I'm almost 100% convinced that Mark Zuckerberg is not a real person anymore. I'm sure he was originally, but then they probably cloned his ass, and who God knows what he is now. But they keep changing him in different ways. And I've noticed recently he's gotten more like dude bro-ish with the long hippie haircut. And now he's making all these weird apologies and all these weird videos. And it makes you wonder what is going on behind the scenes. And so I have noticed in the last few days that the algorithms on Facebook have changed completely. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with Facebook right now. So be aware that some of you, you're going to notice your pages are coming back to life a little bit. Other pages are actually falling apart. It's really weird. Like, I don't know what it is. My page is up in traffic. Like, my traffic got cut by 98% about 6 months ago. If you guys notice, I used to have like 400 people watching the podcast every day. Well, that number's been cut down by a quarter. Well, that was actually nothing compared to the traffic I lost. I lost about 98% of my traffic. I was getting posts last year with 3,000 to 5,000 likes on them. And then all of a sudden that stopped and I was getting 100 likes on something if I was lucky. And now all of a sudden I'm getting thousands of likes again on posts. So there's something going on. They obviously have changed things. They're obviously moving things around. There's changes in a lot of different algorithms right now. Who knows? I've got pages popping up in my newsfeed that I haven't seen in 2 years that I've completely forgot even existed. And now all of a sudden they're popping up again. And there's a lot of AI posts. Yes, Lynn, I feel you on that. The AI posts and pictures drive me crazy too. Especially ones that are like advertisements, because it's double annoying. It's like it's an advertisement for something that's not even a real thing. It's like, oh, why? So yeah. Um, Somebody had a question. Have you been astral projecting? Any suggestions for starters? I'm happy to answer a couple questions. A lot of people astral project without even being aware of it. For those of you who are probably interested in astral projection, ironically, you're probably already doing it without even being aware of it. So the hard part about astral projection isn't even the getting out of body, because most of you leave your bodies every night when you go to sleep. It's just that you have to program your mind to remember what you're experiencing and to be able to control it when you're out of body. So if you're having any dreams that you can remember, if you can remember a dream that wasn't technically a dream, if you can remember it, you were actually having an experience somewhere in the astral. And even if you remember bits and pieces of it, that is the difference between an astral projection and a lucid dream. When you're lucid dreaming, you get bits and pieces of it where you're lucid and other parts you're not. You can still control it and you're aware you can control it. That's why you have a lot of lucid flying dreams. But yeah, keep in mind that AI messes with you while you're sleeping as well. So we've actually noticed that some people have had nightmares, and I'll go in thinking it's an entity, going, okay, there's an entity bothering her. And then I'll find out that it's not. It's from the TV that she was watching earlier in the evening. And then the AI gets into your mindset, it gets into your etheric, and the AI is actually producing bad dreams as well. So just be aware that the TV you watch at night programs your mind before. It's why they call it programming. So what you consume before bed is what you're going to be thinking about when you're sleeping. So if you read a nice book before bed, you're less likely to have AI on you, because technically the AI comes through your router, it comes through the Wi-Fi, it comes through the TV, it comes through all those black mirrors you've got that you're walking around with. Black mirrors are used for divination. This is a black mirror. Okay. So just for the record, like, you guys, if you're on your phone for hours before bed, you're picking up AI that you're taking to sleep with you. And if you have dreams that are really weird and make no sense, it's entirely possible that you are actually having your dreams programmed by AI while you're sleeping. You guys have no idea how much AI affects our entire planet. It really does. Everything about our planet is being affected by AI. In fact, there's not a single house that I check now that doesn't have AI in it. It can be a third world shack that I'm checking, and there's still AI in the shack. Okay, for the record, I am speaking from experience. So Lindsay says we need a new updated class, Laura. Well, funnily enough, I was actually going to teach a class this weekend, but I did not have the promo ready. I'm doing my own promotions now, and I'm very much a slacker when it comes to trying to do my work on my homework. So I was supposed to set it up for a class this week. I was going to do it on the 19th, but I don't have time anymore. I've got so much going on right now. So I'm going to move it until I think February 2nd is when I'm going to do my next astral projection class. I was going to do one the last week of January, but I'm actually going away to visit friends for that weekend. So I'll probably do it the first week of February before I go away to South Africa for 2 weeks. So if there's any other questions about that, feel free to ask. But for those of you that aren't remembering your dreams, there might be a reason for that, because I don't remember my dreams either. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors when it comes to those things. Any other questions? There was a couple things I was going to discuss today. I left a post in my Spirit Release and Lost Soul Rescue group that I'm sure many of you saw. This was that trigger worthy, what do you call it? I mentioned that it was it was kind of upsetting post. And to be honest, it took me 24 hours of calming myself down before I could even write it. And I was quite upset just thinking about it as I was writing it. So if you'll notice when you read that post, I was a little emotional when I wrote that post. But the reason I wanted to mention it is because for those of you who don't even know what I'm talking about, I went, how do I say this delicately? Because I'm on Facebook still. I'm trying to talk about this in a way that's not going to be too upsetting. So one of you guys messaged me about a sibling that was in a mental health ward in London. And they were obviously very concerned for their sibling, and they wanted to see if he was doing okay. So I knew immediately where he was located, that it was not a normal clearing for, just normal everyday clearing. So when we know that something like that is going to happen, we tend to plan to have some extra backup there. And so myself, Katie, and another medium who would prefer to remain anonymous right now, we all sat down together to do this special clearing on on the mental health ward and the guy that was in there, right? And so the first thing we find when we tune into this young man is the fact that he's completely sedated, like doesn't even know where he is basically at that point. And then we found this giant octopus. Like, yes, there's octopuses. There's some really big, nasty looking ones that exist in the astral because okay, let me rephrase this. So there's different types of beings that exist across the cosmos. You do have the less evolved, more animalistic version of octopuses and lions and tigers and all of these things. And then when you get into the galactic scene, you start to notice that there are far more advanced versions of the animals that we have here on Earth, right? And so, yeah, there are such things as galactic octopuses. In fact, we find them all over the time. Like, you know where we find them the most? The UK. We find the most octopuses in the UK. I don't know why, but for some reason, that's where most of them tend to be. So, in fact, it was interesting. We found one on somebody a week before, and I even said, like, oh, I wonder why this person, this person's in New Jersey. How do they have an octopus? And the guides were like, oh, he was in England 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, for some reason, I don't know why, it's like certain areas have more infestations of other certain types. Like Australia has the most insectoids. There are so many insectoids in Australia, it's unbelievable. So the praying mantis types, the not so nice ones, that's where they are. And like I said, each type kind of tends to go to certain areas. So in London, as you would normally expect, because London is quite a melting pot, and that's where this mental health ward was, we found it was basically like a zoo from hell. That's the only explanation, the only, real thing that fits what it was, because there were so many creatures in there. It was unbelievable. Some of them are unfathomable to human senses. Like, they're so outside of our ability to comprehend their own. They're like, they don't even have form. Like, they can change form any way they wish, right? And then you also have beings that you have like the Greys. We found a whole laboratory in there. There was lizards in there. There was, the reptilians in there. There were hybrids types. There were all kinds of different things in this place, right? And as soon as we tune in and the guides start doing their thing, in fact, we called in the Irma, because the Irma are kind of watching us when we do these clearings now. It's funny, whenever I say, like, I wonder if we can call in the Irma are like, dun, 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 and they just appear. So I'm wondering if they're listening somehow. Maybe I got a tracking device in here. It's really funny, because we weren't even really working with the Galactics at the time, but the Irma came in, and they came in to help us remove all of this stuff. And even they had a heck of a time to do all of this. Chloe had a good question. How do you stay protecting yourself when you do things like this? Well, whenever we do our psychic protection before any type, I do psychic protection every day. I visualize a golden egg that protects me closely. So if you see these things in your mind's eye, you are manifesting in the astral. So I ground myself first. I always forget the grounding part. Ground yourself first. Visualize roots growing out of your fingers, your feet, every part of you. You also want to ground your crown. So you visualize roots coming out of your crown chakra and your root chakra, and you have those roots going deep into the earth and wrapping around the core of the earth. That is to ground yourself, right? Sometimes I even do like a corkscrew. I visualize myself going like a corkscrew into the ground. That will it also protects you in a way, when you're almost like protected by Gaia's energy. And then I do the golden egg around myself. Then I visualize the invisibility cloak. I put an invisibility cloak on. I'm literally like visualizing one. You just put it on yourself, you tie it, you throw it over, and then I just do this to visualize myself inside the cloak, completely shielded and protected. And then I do an obsidian bubble around myself, where I visualize rainbow obsidian, which is one of my favorite protective crystals. This is rainbow obsidian. I visualize a bubble of rainbow obsidian around myself. And then I put a Faraday cage around that, which kind of looks like silver spider web that goes around that to protect from AI. And yes, I am well aware that sounds like a lot. But if you visualize yourself in doing those things, even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, that protection is around you in the astral, and it does shield you from all kinds of stuff. Like the obsidian bubble will shield you from any demonic entities or anything. It's almost like an impenetrable shield that goes around you. And then the Faraday protects you from the AI. Some people like to do wetsuits. I like to do the invisibility cloak personally. I feel like I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just a Harry Potter nerd, but I do. I like to use the invisibility cloak. You guys can visualize whatever you want. This is the cool thing about psychic protection. You can visualize anything. In fact, I have a tiger in my house now. I've been visualizing a tiger walking around my house. I've been calling her Shira. So I have a tiger in my house that anytime there's a level 1 that comes in here to try and mess with me, I just call it Shira, which is it's like a thought form that I've manifested in the astral. And Shira comes and chases it out of the house. So I just visualize a tiger walking around my house in the astral at all times. I can see her in my mind's eye as I close my eyes right now. She's sitting by the door. You got to take it that seriously, and it does work. So you visualize whatever form of protection you want, and it does work. But like I said, you have to believe in it. Okay? If you don't believe that it's there, it's not there. You drop your what do you call it? It's almost like what do they call it in space when they do it? It's like an invisibility. It's a shield, right? It's like a big shield. Well, you drop your shield whenever you don't believe that it's there. So Keisha I have 2 lions. There you go. See? Nailed it. Some people do other things. I was doing a turret in my house for a while where I was visualizing like this turret that would spin in 360 degrees, and the turret would blast things with sea salt and force field. Thank you, Jessica. That's the word I was trying to out of my head. Yes, that's the one. Force field. If you don't trust the force field, then it's not going to be there. So the more you believe, the stronger your protection is. So anyway, you can cloak yourself. This is one of the reasons why I think we had no problems after that London clearing, is because we were very well cloaked. All of us were cloaked. In fact, we even said to our guides, "Are we cloaked?" They're like, "Yep, you're good." So when we go in there to obviously do all the chaos, and I must say it's really beautiful. The most exciting thing about all of that was watching the Earthbounds crossover, because Katie, as many of you are aware, she channels Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene comes in when Katie does clearings. And so I could see her in my mind's eye. Apparently, Charlie was sending me the visions like with telepathy, where I could see this beautiful woman opening this stunning, sparkling doorway, and all of these Earthbounds just kind of she was like, come on. And I could see her in my mind's eye as she was doing it. It was really beautiful. So, I even though I was really disheartened to find all of those people, I mean, we found a laboratory. There was an entire laboratory in that mental health ward in London. And so we called in Irma, we called in the guides, and, we asked them, can you please clear all that electricity, all the equipment out of there? Can you please clear all the implants and all the devices? Can you try and clear the staff that are in there? And they were like, Lara, this is a lot. So I'm like, yeah, I'm aware it's a lot. So we were only actually able to clear 1 floor. But we cleared it very well, and I'm feeling very proud of us, considering how many people are actually in just 1 floor of a mental health ward. It's a lot. And it's sad because so many of these people are loved by their family. They're not being sent to these places because they just want to be gone. They're sending them there because it's the last-ditch effort, because they feel there's no other option. These people are so loved by their families, but there's no other option for them at that point. So they need to learn that there are other options, that we can do clearings, that we can start to protect these people before they go into a place where, there's no healing going on in that building. It's literally just locking them up and throwing away the key and sedating them to keep them quiet. So that is not a healing place. Those are places where you go to get out of society, to be locked away. And that is the part that bothered me the most in all of this, because so many of those people were in their starseeds. So many of those people came to Earth wanting to help. And then they realize, whoa, this place is really fucking painful. Whoa, I am so sensitive to all of these energies down here. And it's so, so, so dark here that they get lost. And then they get, they get addicted to drugs, to getting addicted to escapism in general. And so a lot of them end up numbing themselves, or just ending up completely checked out of reality because reality itself is too much for them. So, and these are people that are here because they wanted to change the world for the better. And so to see a lot of those people in that situation, it's gut wrenching, and that's why it affected me. It's so hard. I'm always telling people, no, observe, don't absorb. But I'm preaching to the fucking choir here because no, I absorbed a lot of that. I didn't want to, but I got so emotionally connected to the people that were trying to help that it's hard not to. So this is something that is getting stronger over time. It's almost like you desensitize yourself, you're thickening your skin, and it's hard to actually be objective in a situation that seems hopeless. But we are doing our absolute best to do everything we can for the people that are in those situations, which is why, I honestly feel like starting some kind of a grid network. I don't know if there's somebody out there, that one of you guys that are listening, that would be interested in helping me with this, where once a week we just go through. And I think the most important of them would be youth ones, mental health wards that focus mainly on children and youths. My father was a psychiatrist. He started something called Elmcrest Children's Center. This was many, many decades ago, before I was even born. And these children were taken out of bad situations in order to go to a place where they would have a warm bed, a meal, where they would have an education if they wanted it, where they would have access to help if they needed it. And so many of those places got converted, including after my father's retirement. It got converted into a juvenile holding facility, where originally it was a help center. And so many of these centers around the world have become that way, where they are able to assist other people with moving forward in ways that they are different. My mom just corrected me. Thanks, Mom. No, he wasn't the only one who started it. Yes, thank you, Mom, for correcting me. She just texted me. Ping, thank you, Mom. Sorry, he was one of the people that founded it. Thank you. And can you stop texting me, Mom, because it's coming through my computer? Yes. Thank you. So anyway, the reason that I'm even bringing this up is that I would like to create... Thanks, Mom. Love you. You can stop texting me now. Every single time it comes through my computer. Thank you, Mom. So anyway, as I was saying, the spirit of that is what I'm trying to motivate myself in, trying to take a place that was created as a holding center and turn it into somewhere, and do the opposite, to turn it into a place that is a healing place. Somewhere that is actually going to be somewhere that helps children that are in those situations. Because many of these children are mediums. In fact, a lot of you book clearings for children. My mom always makes sure that I'm keeping everything as accurate as possible. Thank you, Mom. So anyway, yes, this is one of those things where I feel like we should be doing the opposite. Even though Elmcrest was converted into a holding center, I would like to start converting those things back into what they originally were supposed to be in the first place, right? So converting a jail center or a child's facility into a healing center where they're actually being affected in a positive way. So it is hard to convert things that have already been converted, so to speak. But I think that we have the potential to do that. We just obviously need to start helping children the right way. And it's not easy to do when the whole system is kind of rigged against them, if you know what I mean. So there are some schools that are doing things differently, like the Montessori schools are lovely. And, obviously they're expensive though. And when it comes to public schools, this is the same thing what they do in public schools. And since my mom is listening, I'm sure she can validate for this, but they put me on drugs about as earliest as they possibly could. I was on Ritalin, I was on Dexedrine, I was on Adderall, I was on all of these different drugs because they didn't like the way that I behaved in school. They didn't like the fact that I didn't want to learn the things that they were teaching. They didn't like the fact that I argued with some of the teachers about some of the things I didn't like, especially when I was going to that private Christian academy. I got paddled all the time from that school. So, and for the record, they would call my mom and say, hey, we're going to paddle Laura over some stupid shit. Is that okay with you? And she'd be like, yeah, sure, fine, go ahead. Now that she's listening. Sometimes we feel we're doing the right thing, but we're not. And there are many parents out there that think they're doing the right things by giving their children drugs to kind of numb the pain they're in, or to help them get rid of the thoughts in their head, or to help them get rid of their anger issues, or to help them focus in school, right? And for me, it led to a 20-year addiction. It took me, the only thing that saved my life getting me off of Adderall was cannabis. And you guys, I have no problem, explaining about my love of cannabis for that reason, because I would not be here right now if it wasn't for cannabis. I would have been long gone. There's no way I would have survived my 20s without cannabis, because of my intense addiction to the drugs that they gave me when I was a child. So, and no offense to our parents, they think that they're doing the right thing. They think that, listening to the doctors is the right thing. Listening to the psychiatrist is the right thing. But in many cases, they just want you to shut up and sit down. They don't want you to be yourself. They don't want you to go and be this unique individual. They want you to shut up, sit down, do your homework, and stay out of trouble. And so if they have to load you up with drugs in order to get that out of you, that is what they will do. And that is what they did to me. So, I feel there's so many options available that we don't even know about, because it's not part of the public protocol. It's not part of the system, So I'm just saying, like, what I saw this weekend was the other end of the spectrum. After 20, 30 years of this shit, this is what happens, right? Where you start as an 8-year-old who is angry and upset and depressed and doesn't want to focus in school. So they load you up on all the drugs. And then 30 years later, you're in a fucking mental health ward with an octopus on your back. Like, where do we get in the middle of that to make it stop? This is where my passion is going. As you guys can tell, I'm a little upset about this, and I'm still upset over what we found in there this weekend. Because these are the places that are supposed to be healing centers, and there's a feeding frenzy going on. So it's just, yeah, I don't really know where to begin tackling these problems. I would really love to be able to affect these things on a worldwide scale, but I'm only one person. And I don't even know where to begin. So I am so grateful that many of you are just as passionate as I am. That many of you have understood what I've been through, being medicated ever since childhood. And it was so hard to get off of those childhood drugs in ways that people will never, if you've never been on those drugs in childhood, you have no idea what it's like. You have no idea how many of my friends never got off of those drugs. I am so glad that I got out of the hometown that I was born in, because most of my friends went through the worst addictions ever. This is another reason why cannabis saved my life. I'm not even talking about getting off of the drugs, but the fact that I loved cannabis so much in my teens, I didn't need anything else. My friends would be doing other shit. And I'd be like, no, I'm good. You guys do your thing. I'm fine. Thank you. Bye. You enjoy your pills or whatever you're doing. I'm happy with my reefer. Thank you. So even back then, cannabis was saving my life, because at least it was allowing me a chance to escape to a small degree and not to an extreme degree. Because some of my friends were so hurt, so badly abused by life in general, that they went straight to the hard stuff. And so many of those people are not clear from that hard stuff. Even 20, 30 years later, they're still doing it. So it's heartbreaking. It really is. And I'm so glad that I am not one of those people who ended up in one of those situations that's inescapable, a pit so deep that you're not able to crawl out of it, because there's a lot of people who are in that situation and they're trying their best to get out of it. And how are they supposed to get out of it with a fucking octopus attached to them? You know what I mean? Like, we're fighting things in the physical without even being aware of what we're dealing with in the astral. You can't even see these problems. We're trying to deal with problems you can see. and still struggling, not even aware that many of the problems we're dealing with are on a multi-dimensional scale. So we've got a lot of work to do. And ironically, it's the broken people that have had to put themselves back together that are going to be fixing the rest of the planet. They are, because at least we understand, what people are actually going through. And just seeing the apathy right now, there's so much apathy right now in regards to the suffering that is happening. And it's heartbreaking. It really is, because many of us understand what it's like to be in those situations, to have nothing, to have absolutely nothing, and still lose the tiny little bits of things that we held close to us. So to those of us that are suffering right now, to those of you who have friends and family in places like North Carolina, who have friends in, California, who have friends all over the world who are suffering right now, we have to stand up in solidarity and understand that they are us too. We are them. And it's just it's frustrating to see what happens when you basically lock people up and throw away the key. Because that's what these mental health wards are. They're just a holding center. Nobody is getting healed in those places. They're being held back from healing in those places. So pardon my rant today about this, but as you guys knew this was coming, those of you who read my post in my group this weekend knew this was coming. Because it's a very emotionally jarring to see what the lowest, how far people can fall in this world, because you think the basement's the worst place to go, but no, there's some places that are quite hellish here on earth. And like I said, that mental health ward was like a zoo from hell. It was like hell in physical. You just don't even know what they're going through. So there are tens of thousands of those mental health wards all over the planet. And we have so much work to do to make sure that people are not ending up in a place like that, because there's nowhere else for them to go. So a couple of you are showing up to the conversation now going, oh, damn, Laura's already going off. Yeah, sorry. You have to watch you have to watch it over again from the beginning. So if you guys have any questions or anything you would like to discuss about this, I'm all for discussing it, because we need to talk about these things. We need to have these complicated agreements, arguments, whatever it is. We need to have these discussions. How is the person that you went in to clear? How is any of us supposed to know? This is the thing. We can clear all these people in mental health wards, but many of them aren't even speaking with their families. I have no idea. So I would love to say everything went well, but that would just be an assumption, because I have no way of validating these things. And I hate to say it, but a place like that could have been refilled within an hour. I'm hoping that the guides did extra protection. I know they did extra protection for that one person. That's what they told me. They gave that extra person, the person that I was asked to clear, we gave them extra protection. We made sure that we even flushed his system of chemicals. We did everything we possibly could for that person. And I'm hoping that they're going to do better. Yes. But the rest of the people on that floor, because there were countless people on that floor, I hate to say it, but that floor probably refilled within an hour. All they have to do is open another portal and start bringing them back in. So even if the ETs show up and clear out all the equipment, clear out the laboratories that they've built in there, clear out all the other shit that's in there, they're still going to come back again. This is the problem. Because unless you are well-versed in these things, unless you have an understanding, I would love to be able to create a healing center somewhere where anybody is welcome, whether or not you're a veteran or a homeless person or just somebody who is really, really down on their luck, where they could come in, they could get a clearing, they could get coaching, they can get counseling, they can get some food, they could get, just some help, some guidance. I would love to have a healing center like that, and one where you can heal them and then train them. So how did the lab get shut down? Because the Arcturians and Irma came and took down all the equipment. I just have to call in my guides. I have a lot of galactics that are watching me right now. So really all I have to say is, hey guys, you watching? I'm about to do some shit. Hey, you guys are here. I hope you're here. I hope you're watching. Because, yeah, they do. They see I'm about to do something and they're like, oh, shit. All right, we got to get in there. Laura's about to do some crazy shit again. So, yeah, I literally do. All I have to do is call in my guides, my Arcturian or my Salation or my Irma guides, and they appear. So I'm very, very grateful right now that I have the ability to call in as much backup as I do. And there's a reason for that, because I have started a lot of shit, as you guys have noticed. I'm making a lot of waves with this work, just in case you hadn't noticed. So yeah, like I said, I haven't had any issues since doing the clearing this weekend. So I think our cloaks and our shielding worked very well, and I'm very grateful to them for making sure that we were well shielded doing that work. Because the last thing I want is a bunch of octopuses coming here all pissed off because I took out their cousin. If you know what I mean. So I probably even shouldn't even be talking about this on Facebook, I must admit, because I've noticed every time I talk about this, some of you guys who have attachments, it's like there's a reptilian listening and they're like, did you hear what I just said? So I'm well aware how I sound. I know I sound completely batshit crazy, but the funny thing is I've already had 1,000 different types of validations to know that I'm not. So if it wasn't for those different validations, I would be questioning my own sanity, trust me. But this is the problem, right? When we're dealing with things we can't see. Some of you can see them, and that's why you end up in a place like that, because so many people gaslight you into thinking that you're not seeing those things. So anyway, let's do a mass healing, clearing, protection for Laura and all our frontliners. I think we're good. I had a clearing right before I came on with you guys. I get a clearing 3 to 5 times a day, just for the record. I get a clearing every single time I sit down to do cases. And it's really funny because my left ear is ringing really loud now. As soon as I said that, as soon as I get a clearing 3 to 5 times a day, they're like, don't worry, you're getting one even now as we say this. They probably are now that you said that. That's funny. So, as they say, guys, shields up. Make sure your shields are up. I told you what I do every day for protection. You guys should be doing it too. Every day, visualizing protection around yourself in the astral. Golden egg protection works the best, especially if you use it close to yourself. Invisibility cloaks for shielding yourself energetically. All of those good things. Very, very important. Grounding is especially important, because then you're not going to know. If you're not grounded, you're not going to know something's messing with you. The more ungrounded you are, the more numb you are to your environment around you. That's my point. What platform is Lizzie free from listening in? None of them, RJ. Well, Astara might be, especially after we've done a clearing. Because keep in mind, like, sometimes we do call in the guides to clear us on there. You can even call in your guides right now to clear you. You guys know what it's like when Siddhartha is on. He calls in the guys to clear us then. So, a lot of you do get clearings just from watching the podcast and watching the Astara chat, funnily enough. Have you heard from Chen? I hear from him at least twice a week. He pops in through other mediums. Luckily, because obviously the vessel's mad at me. But he's not. Chen is actually very happy and supportive in what I'm doing. So that's the important thing. I have all the support of the guides. They know how motivated and that my heart is in the right place. So I hear from him all the time. For the longest of time, I had a vision of creating a healing center here in South Africa, but I have no idea how or where to start. I've never even healed anyone. Well, I wouldn't ever say never. We heal people all the time. You could just give somebody a hug and that might be healing. So, just be aware. If you want to be a healer, you probably already are in some degree. If you want training in healing, then that's really exciting. And we are always promoting people who are doing training, whether it's Reiki but keep in mind, money is also a factor too. This is one of the reasons why, we do a lot of pro bonos. We do a lot of cases for free. And we even do a lot of training for free now. But at the same time, you still need money in order to manifest things on this planet in order 3D. So we are going to have to come up with some money for these healing centers, because that is the plan. Are you kidding? I would love that, right? Because I go for a float every week, right? Or at least every other week. And a float in one of those sensory deprivation tanks. And they're always playing music in there. And I'm floating in salt, right? I was just thinking, man, can you imagine if we had a lot of these? Where if people could be brought in You strip them down, throw them in the sensory deprivation tank, right? They're floating in sea salt, or I should say a mix of Epsom and sea salt would be the best. So you float them in sea salt and then you blast them with high frequency tones, right? While they're in there. So if you're blasting them, because you can actually remove entities with high frequency, right? So if you were to play high frequency sounds into the chamber, you wouldn't even need a medium to clear people. You could just clear them vibrationally. You bring them into the salt bath cleanses them, and then the high frequencies get rid of the things that are attached to them. So, if you had a place like that, you would have a healing center. Okay? And then you coach people, you teach them psychic protection, you teach them self-healing, you teach them Reiki, all of those things. I mean, there's all kinds of ways you could heal people. You don't have to heal people in one way. Just having a sound bath. Any of you who do sound healing, you're clearing the people that you're around. Yeah, they may end up picking up their attachments really quickly when they go home back to their house that hasn't been cleansed. But if you're going to work sound healing around people with attachments, the attachments get the fuck out of Dodge. They run off. They're like, nope, I'm out of here. What level frequency? I actually have a post about this that I wrote a while ago. Where is it? Notes for AP page. Hang on, I'll get that one. This was from the Tagetans, actually. The Tagetans were the ones that came up with this information. There you go. Here's a post on the subject. There you go. There's the link. There's a post. I'll reshare it in a minute. But they talked about how I think it's 963 was the highest frequency sound they recommended, which I believe is the same one as the crown. So they say 174 hertz removes pain, 285 hertz influences the energy field, 396 hertz, these are also solfeggio frequencies, liberates you from fear and guilt, 417 hertz facilitates change, 432 hertz is the miracle tone for nature, so that's why everybody's always saying listen to your music in 432 hertz. 528 hertz is the same frequency as the heart chakra, that is also repairs your DNA. 638 hertz repairs relationships and other trauma in the heart. 741 awakens intuition, because apparently that's part of your third eye. I think that's your third eye frequency. But they go up higher and higher from that. And so all of those frequencies allow you to, it's like they shake off the lower tone frequencies. Remember when we talked about how dominant frequencies affect all the frequencies around it? So let's say that even if you were the dominant frequency, if you walk into a room and there's a bunch of low vibe people in the room, you come in there with your happy-go-lucky attitude and you change the vibe of the room, right? But let's say you got a room of 10 people and we're all hanging out, having a laugh, and one person with a dominant frequency, a very strong low vibe frequency comes in the room. Everyone can feel that. Everyone can feel it. And so I'll share it again, Tracy. There's a link. I'll share it on the page in just a minute when I finish the podcast. Because in about 10 minutes, we're going to switch over to Astara anyway. So I will switch that way. What about those med beds? What's your thoughts on those? Well, there's different forms of med beds. There's a lot of different ones. So if you're talking about the ones that have all the lights on them, those work really well. In fact, there's a lady that I go to every once in a while for light therapy healing. And she's got like this blanket that she puts over you. And it's interesting. She puts the blanket up to your neck, right? And then she's got like this mask thing that comes down. And if you've seen those light therapy masks, she's got one of those that fits over your head. But your whole body is covered in this blanket. And if you lift up the blanket and look in, you notice that there's like 1,000 lights all over the blanket. And it's like it's an electric blanket that's all lit up. And those lights are all over your body. And the lights, they pulse in certain frequencies. And they have there's a whole light spectrum thing that goes on. And she explained it all to me. And I barely retained 1% of the information because she explained all about how the lights work. And yes, photon light therapy. Thank you. Yes. You feel amazing after that, just for the record. I tend to do that right after I go for a float. And it's amazing. It's not just red light. It changes all different colors. The red light one is the one you notice on your face the most. It does stay kind of like red light on your face the longest. But sometimes it changes to like blue and purple. It goes through all the colors. And you'll notice, like when you lift up the blanket and look down, like all of these different colors are shining at different times, and they go to different areas of the body at different times. And she explained, like, it does strengthen your chakras as well. Like it'll look like rainbow colors under there too. But I do make you wonder, like, about the certain lights and the times the lights they used, because there was this one person I was chatting with. A friend of mine was telling me that a friend of theirs who works under a light all the time was dealing with really bad mercury poisoning. And it was from those new lights, not the LED ones, the other ones. So yeah, you have to be really particular about the lights you're using. I don't try to use those energy saving bulbs if I can, because obviously they're loaded with mercury and they're quite unsafe. And that one guy, like you said, he works under a light all the time. The light's really close to him, and he's constantly working under the light as part of his job. And that is how he got the really bad mercury poisoning. Just being under the light, because the light sheds mercury all the time. So this is what I mean. Like, we've got all kinds of stuff around us that we don't even really know what it's doing to us. So sound healing is probably one of the most effective. Just for the record, for those of you who are interested in some form of, technology, light-based thing. Because sound healing, I mean, everything in existence is sound. In most cases, the blockages that we have can be removed with sound too. Not just entities, but even just blockages within the etheric, within our chakras. And remember what I asked those guides? I asked the guides, I said, which is more detrimental to someone who is focused on protection? Would it be to have holes in the etheric, or would it to be have unbalanced chakras? Like, which one is worse when you're trying to avoid entities? Unbalanced chakras or a damaged etheric field, right? I was expecting the damaged etheric field, because I was told, I mean, it's your bubble of protection, right? Like, I figured that, no, it was the opposite. They told me the chakras. They said the chakras have far more of an effect in protecting you than even your etheric shield has. Because we get holes in our etheric all the time. If you're eating crappy food, you're putting holes in your etheric. If you're smoking anything in general whatsoever, you're putting holes in your etheric. If you are drinking alcohol, you're putting tears in your etheric. So all they really need to do, and it was interesting, like the other day, I did a clearing on somebody, and then I did a recheck on them a couple hours later. And so when we did the clearing, we always repair their etheric, right? We repair it to 100%. So then a couple hours later, they had another attachment come in. It was a reptilian came back. So what they did was they raced off because they knew they booked an emergency clearing. And then as soon as we did the emergency clearing, they came back again. So they messaged me going, what's funny is I felt good for like an hour. And then all of a sudden, like, there's something wrong again. So we go back and check. And sure enough, there was a reptilian that was trying to get in. It wasn't able to get into the etheric because we had fully repaired the etheric. So you know what it did? It made a hole in the etheric. It's all it took. Just a small hole, right, big? And then it started throwing hooks. So for those of you who don't know what a psychic hook is, a psychic hook looks like a cord, right? It's like a normal cord. A lot of us have cords that go from person to person. But these cords are special because you can actually use them like a lasso, where you throw the cord and it hooks to the person that you're connecting it to, right? And when that happens, you actually feel like you have hooks in your back. And that's what they did. They would all I had to do was make a tiny little hole. And they started throwing hooks through that tiny little hole. And that's how they got connected to the client. And the client could feel the hooks going back in. And they could feel the vibration of the reptilian trying to attack them. So even though they were still sovereign, even though their etheric was still at like 95%, they still used that 5%, that tiny little tear, to be able to start throwing cords in where they could start siphoning energy again. And when they were able to siphon energy, that's when your vibration goes down. That's when you start feeling ungrounded. That's when you start feeling pain. That's when you start feeling nauseous because they're affecting your vibration. Whenever you have a rapid increase or decrease in vibration, that is what you're feeling when you're feeling the nausea. So for any reason, if you walk into a building and you feel nauseous, if you're having a conversation with somebody and you start to feel nauseous, there is an opposing frequency that is trying to affect your frequency. This is why, for any of you who have taken psychedelics, you take the psychedelics and then all of a sudden you feel sick to your stomach. That's why you're like rocketing yourself up high in frequency. Those psychedelics, well, I should say I wouldn't want to say naturally because it depends on what psychedelic you're taking. But yes, they do. It's just part of their nature to increase your vibration. A lot of these things are very high vibration. So when you eat it, you're imbuing yourself with that high vibration, which is going to increase you. But if you're eating something with really low vibration and you're high vibration, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to make you feel sick. So anytime that you notice nausea, there is something messing with your frequency, either making it go rapidly up or rapidly down. So that is one of your red flags that every single one of you should be paying attention to. I was told that the pain in my stomach from talking to my missing neighbor's husband was a psychic punch. Well, this is part of the problem, right? Is that many of the feelings that we feel, we are unaware of what they actually are. So like chest pain for a while, when I first got into all of this work, I immediately assumed that chest pain was a psychic attack. Because if you think, that is what I noticed. When I had an attachment, I felt it in my heart chakra, right? So I assumed every time I felt that it was a bad thing. So I started to freak myself out. Every time I would have pain in my heart that felt like, I don't know, really bad indigestion or something, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm under attack. So I would go for a clearing. And then I found out that one, it could also be family members. I had the most insane feeling of vibration when I had an Irma standing behind me because I felt it. Their vibration is so intense, you guys. I'm not even kidding. It felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And I didn't know why. And I was saying to the guides, like, what is that? And they were like, oh, there's an Irma standing behind you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because it felt like my heart was going to explode out of my chest. So it wasn't a bad thing that was causing it. It was just a very powerful frequency that was around me. And it was very different from my frequency, which is why I had that, that's the only way I can put it. Like, holy shit. Their vibration is incredible. And this is another reason why I know I'm not crazy. I'm feeling these things. And I'm like, all right, can you step back? And then immediately as I say that, it stops. So this is why I say, like, sometimes the things that we think are red flags are actually just a sign our guides are coming in, or that we have some kind of a galactic around, or it could be a lot of things. So you have to use your intuition to discern between the tiny difference the subtle differences that you'll notice between them. So anyway, I realize now it is 11 o'clock. We're probably going to switch over to a star now. Any other questions really quick before I hop over? What is your waiting time for clearings right now? I'm getting really caught up because I have a new medium I'm working with, and she's amazing. Her name is Carolyn. She's phenomenal. Carolyn's a wonderful medium, and she and I are going through the cases very quickly right now. So I'm catching up rapidly. So right now my waiting period is about 3 weeks, but within 2-3 days, it may be down to 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. Is the March class full? None of our classes are full because I talked Katie into removing the, she's like, are you sure? Yes, we can handle this. So there's no limit on the training for the online portion when it comes to the theory portion, because any of you, oh, Carolyn's here. I was just talking about you. Mwah, hello, darling. So, so for those of you who are interested in the training, just be aware that there is for those of you who want to learn about entities and contracts and cords and earthbounds and all of those things, there's no limit on that class. Any of you who are interested in learning about what we clear and how we do that, you're more than welcome to join, right? Even if you're not sure if this is the kind of work for you, there is no limit on those classes. We could have 300 people on Zoom all at once learning those things all at once. So that's not a problem. It's the other portion that we're going to have smaller classes and specified training with. That is when we're training mediums and facilitators. I'm going to be handling the facilitator training. Katie is handling the mediumship training. So there's going to be, that needs to be done basically almost one-on-one. It's because we need to make sure we do it in a group setting. The reason for that is because you won't believe the confidence it builds you guys when you're doing clearings together as a group. The psychic protection class is entirely different. That is when I do my astral projection and protection class. I do that every 2 months anyway. I do that class 6 times a year. Last time I did it was, I don't even remember. I think it was around Halloween. So I'm a little behind on that. So for those of you who are interested, I will have that class link. I'll have it sign up. I'll share it around in the next couple days. I'll probably have that ready for tomorrow. So we have the psychic protection training. We have the astral projection training. Then Katie and I are going to be doing the theory portion. Like I said, any of you that want to learn this, you can learn that. Every single one of you probably should be learning these things anyway, for the record. So that is the 6 weeks class. That is once a week. We'll be meeting 3 hours a day, once a week. And that class will take 6 weeks to do because it's a lot, you guys. It's a lot of learning when you're learning about entities and earthbounds and portals and curses and cords and hexes and all these weird devices and all kinds of strange stuff that we find in our clearings. So you guys will be able to learn from that, see if you like what we're going to be getting into, and then you can decide if you want to take on the next portion of training, which is the facilitator and the medium training. So that way you guys can do clearing work like I do. So, but that'll be later on after we already do the theory portion. So there will be a course in March with American time zones in mind, and then there'll be another one in July with South African and Australian time zones in mind. And for the record, like I said, we are planning on actually doing in-person classes as well. Katie and I are doing an in-person class so that way you guys can practice in person. You know, it's not going to be 5 days of just listening to us yammer on at the front of class. You're actually going to be in class learning, doing practicing. So that whole week is practice stuff. So this is why you guys are going to learn everything before you even show up to class, because you guys can have weeks of learning about contracts and cords and all that other stuff before you arrive. So that way you guys know what you need to know before you even get into the practice section. We don't want to waste time. We know your time is valuable. Our time is definitely valuable. So we're trying to make the most of it. So for those of you who are interested in just wanting to know these things, or maybe perhaps even having a career in this, the live class is going to be, the first one we're planning is for the summer solstice. We're even looking into doing one in Arizona at the end of this year. And next year, we were even discussing doing an in-person class in South Africa. But that'll be a year from now. So I'm just saying, like, we have a lot of classes that we're going to be doing online and in person. So for those of you who are interested in joining us for the in-person practice cases, that will be in Glastonbury in June. And Katie and I will talk more about that. She'll be on the podcast on Friday, and we'll talk all about the plans for the in-person training on Friday. So that'll be a lot more fun. So anyway, I'm going to hop over to Astara. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was wonderful having a chat with you, and I will see you all tomorrow. Who's on the podcast tomorrow? Let's see. Because my brain doesn't remember. Oh, Tracy's on the podcast tomorrow. How exciting. Lovely. So I will see you guys at 10 a.m. with Tracy. Love you all. And I will see you on Astara just now, or I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye, guys.